Hello and welcome to the Milan Talk podcast. I'm your host Samit Paul, and ahead of the Rossoneri's first game of the season, along with the end of the transfer window, we've got plenty to discuss on the pod today. So today's order of play is as follows. I'll be rating our summer transfer window. I'll be discussing where we can still improve in January and next summer. Preview of Napoli Milan this weekend, of course, and some of your favourite Milan moments, following on from the success last week that we had with some of your Milan stories and how you became Milan fans. So all that to come, but let's kick things off with the summer transfer window. Look, all in all, I believe that we've had a really solid transfer window, so I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Higuain, Caldara, Castillejo, Laxalt, Bakayoko, Halilovic, Strinic and Reina have all arrived. Bonucci, Kalinic, Bacca, Locatelli, Gomez, Antonelli, Gabriel and Andre Silva, among with a few others, have all left. I think we've addressed some really key areas that needed to be addressed. Higuain, hopefully a 15 to 20 plus goal scorer that we really needed. Caldara, a defender for the present and future to fill the Bonucci void, and I'm very happy with that being the case. Castillejo, jury's still out for me because I haven't seen enough of him to give a solid opinion on. The clips that I have seen, I think he is going to be an asset. Quicker on the ball, he seems to be very direct, so he'll offer a different kind of dynamic in the final third. I've been informed that he can play on the left and right wing, so that's going to be helpful. So yeah, let's see. Gattuso, Leonardo and Maldini, everyone seems to be convinced that he's a good signing. It seemed a bit random to me, obviously, with Bacca going the opposite direction, but he's caught their eye, so let's see what he can do. Laxalt, a little bit underwhelming. I think, he has impressed quietly under the radar for club and country, but I think now comes the time where he has to step up a level in quality as well. If Milan are going to be competing for major honours and moving up and trying to get back into the Champions League, I think Laxalt needs to prove he belongs at that level as well. So I'm happy with the signing. I think he is a quality addition and he will bring something to the team, whether it's at left back, left midfield, left wing. I think he can play alternative roles. So I'm pretty happy with that signing. Bakayoko also arrived as well on loan from Chelsea. Again, I think it's a great signing. Very versatile. I think he can play in a 2 with Kessie. If we go with a 4-2-3-1, he can play on the right of the midfield 3. Defensively sound. He's good technically on the ball. As I said last week on the pod, I think the Premier League just wasn't a good fit for him. I think the frenetic pace, the tempo, the pressure, I think all of that kind of contributed into him just not being able to replicate his form from Monaco. I'm expecting the Bakayoko from Monaco this season. I think he's going to be settled. He looks happy on social media with all these videos that he's posting on Instagram. I think he's going to settle. He's going to do really well. Gattuso is going to help him come along. So I think it's a great signing. Strinic, unfortunately, we've had the bad news this week over his heart scare, so we're probably not going to see him for a few months. All I can say is just I hope he has a really speedy and full recovery. Halilovic is the kind of joker in the pack I kind of describe him as. I think it is like a redemption opportunity for him. Didn't work out at Barcelona. Can he really produce at this level? I don't expect him to be a starter. I think he'll be kind of the guy that comes off the bench to have an influence and impact on games. Hopefully he's more than just the kind of guy making up the numbers. I think if he can come on, chip in with a few assists and goals and make that quality difference off the bench, I think that's a great option to have for Gattuso. And then Reina, of course, plenty of umming and ahhing about whether or not he was coming in to replace Donnarumma, but it looks as though he will be back up to Gigio. So again, experience, he's got a winning mentality. I think he's a great guy to learn from Donnarumma as well. So I think all round it's a solid opportunity to bring in a good goalkeeper, and I think it's another smart move. So happy with all those. In terms of the players that have left, again, Bonucci, it didn't just work out. I still believe that he kind of took us off track last summer. I think he was part of the plan. I think Masaccio came in, was expected to be that guy to play alongside Romagnoli. Opportunity arose to get Bonucci, a seasoned professional, a serial winner for club, international experience, a big name marquee addition. I think that just changed everything from our plans. So again, it was a solid year. I'm glad that he overcame those initial struggles that he had. He was desperately poor in the first half of the season, but he started to show his true colours in the second half of the season. And yeah, I'm happy with what he gave us for a year, but obviously from what he was saying on his return to Juve, his heart was never really in it. He always wanted to be at Juve, so good luck to him. I think we've got the best deal that we could have with Caldara coming in. Offloading Kalinic and Bacca, I think is great business from Leonardo. I expect someone to come in to fill that third option role up front because I do feel as though we're light in that department now. But didn't work out for Kalinic last season, was really poor. His attitude was poor as well at times. Just generally, I think it was the best thing that we could do to get him out of the club. So happy to see that, even though, of course, I will have to admit, hold my hands up as I always do. I did think he was going to be a success for us, so that was disappointing. Baka, same applies really. I didn't really like his attitude. Obviously, reports in the media the season before last about not wanting to travel with the squad or other bits and pieces. It was just a bit of a mess with him as well, so I don't really see him having a future. So glad to see him go. Locatelli was a bit of a disappointment. As we mentioned last week, I think it would have been nice if we'd have perhaps given him out on loan with an option to buy, so we could have some sort of opportunity to bring him back, even a buyback clause or some sort. But it does seem like we've cut all ties, and I wish him the best at Sassuolo. And again, the same applies. Gomez, Antonelli, Gabriel, I think it was just about time that all of them left. Andre Silva, hat-trick on his debut for Sevilla, so he looks like he's going to enjoy himself in Spain this season. Whether or not that then spurs them on to make it a permanent deal remains to be seen, but it would be nice to see Silva back in a Milan shirt in the future. So yeah, let's see how that pans out for him. So yeah, as I mentioned, all in all, I'd have to say 7.5 out of 10. It's not a perfect transfer window at all, by all means. I think we didn't address the midfield situation properly, but we filled some gaps. We made some decent additions, and of course you've got the standout signings of Higuain and the Caldara deal, which was a stroke of genius as far as I'm concerned. So overall, really happy. And yeah, just harking back to the Locatelli and Silva exits, I think personally those are the two that kind of hurt me the most, in the sense that I was hoping that they both have big futures with us. I think it's a kind of ruthless move in a way that was needed. You can say that Locatelli's got all this potential. You can say that Silva, having a second season, might kick on and do really well for us, but for a club looking to break into the top four as we are, I don't think we can even take that risk on the ifs and buts of these players. I think we've got Higuain now, touch wood, stays fit and plays all season and scores goals consistently. We're not going to miss Silva if that's the case. And in terms of Locatelli, Bakayoko, Kessie, Biglia, Bonaventura, the midfield it's not world-class quality, but it's stacked with talent. So I think Locatelli didn't show his worth, didn't fulfill his potential to this point. I think an exit is sad to see, but also perhaps needed. So overall, really happy with the transfer window. But yeah, I expect more to come next year because there are still voids that need to be filled. Moving on to next January and next summer, I believe the midfield is still obviously the main priority for us. Perhaps up front as well. If Silva doesn't come back, I do feel as though we're light. You can look at Higuain and Cutrone and say, yep, two good options there. But we're going to have to rotate, and we're going to have to hope that they don't pick up injuries along the way. So fingers crossed that's the case. But yeah, I think we've got good options at the moment. But moving forward, I would like to see a bit more depth and quality added. But of course, the midfield is the problem area. Reports linking us with Milinkovic-Savic before the transfer deadline. Rabiot was another name mentioned. He'll obviously be available on a free next summer, provided he doesn't sign a contract extension renewal with PSG. So he could be a really solid option for no fee, which he's got creative class. He's technically brilliant. I think he would be a very, very good signing for us. There's obviously talk of the Leonardo connection from his previous stint at PSG as well, whether or not he can kind of help convince him make that move to Milan. But yeah, Rabiot I think would be a great signing. Milinkovic-Savic though is the one. I know, I agreed with a couple of you last week that he is still a gamble for me. I think he's still 23. Yes, he's got a big future ahead of him by all means. He's got the physicality, the agility, the defensive solidity, the attacking threat, assists and goals. So he's got the all-round package to make himself a dominant midfield player. But I would like to see him have 6 more months, a season, showing that he belongs at the very highest level and that he can be an elite player. So for me, it might even work out better that we didn't get to sign him this summer. Financial fair play reasons, of course, came into play from what Leonardo hinted at for us. But perhaps if he has another big season, let's hope that we can maybe bring him in next summer. But those are two obvious names that have been linked with us. The other area that I think needs to be addressed still is a proper out-and-out winger. Yes, we've got Castillejo now, Çalhanoğlu on the left maybe still, Suso on the right, Barini chipping in maybe when we need to rotate things. But I would just like to see a proper out-and-out left winger brought into the club. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Laxalt can maybe potentially play in a bit of a more advanced position, but that is just one kind of area that I still think we need to address. And then 2 names spring out for me in terms of exits. Montolivo and Bertolacci still have to leave. Whether or not that happens, we thought Montolivo was on his way out, but there's talk of him rescinding his contract to kind of end the partnership between the two parties, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But yeah, Montalivo doesn't really offer much for me anymore going forward, and same applies to Bertolacci. I think those two, okay, you can make an argument that maybe they've got squad depth for this season if we're a little bit light, but overall they've got to go. And I think Barini will probably gradually get phased out this season. I think the more quality and the more sort of depth that we add in certain positions where we're lacking last season, I think that's going to see Barini phased out, play less minutes, and eventually he'll leave. But again, that's next year. We'll have to wait and see if that is the case. So on to this weekend's game. Tragedy in Genoa, of course, postponed our game last week against Genoa at the San Siro, so we'll play that at a different date, which means the trip to Napoli is the first game of the season. Doesn't really get much more difficult. I think it's going to be a very tough game. Again, it might be a little bit negative, but I do feel as though a draw is going to be a positive result for us. Naples is never an easy place to go. So I think a 2-2, I think it's going to be an entertaining game, so I'm going to go over 2-2 draw. I was impressed with Napoli last weekend against Lazio. I raised question marks in my season preview about whether the change between going from Sarri's expansive, attacking up-tempo football to Ancelotti's version of football, it might cause problems and raise a few issues early in the season. I actually think they look really good. I think they looked vulnerable defensively, yes, and especially on the goal. I think great touch and finish from Immobile, but there's three defenders that dragged away with one single movement. So I think they look a little bit vulnerable defensively there. But going forward, I think the two goals said it all. There's quality in the final third for them still, and that first goal for Milik, I think it was almost something that we could see last season with Sarri. There's cutting through the Lazio defence, 3 passes, brilliantly worked goal. So we've really got to be tight at the back to make sure that they don't find their flow in the final third. But yeah, I mean, I'm confident. I think we've got a point to prove as well. It is a difficult game for our first away game of the season, but ultimately, I think it's an opportunity for us to make a statement as well that we are genuinely going to be top 4 contenders this season. Higuain going back to Naples, of course, as well, so he might want to silence some of his boo boys that have been on his back since the Juve move. Let's hope that he can get off the mark and start his campaign in fine form. But yeah, I'm confident that we can get a draw. I would like to say we can get a win. We can. I think we've got the quality in the team to do so. And there are, like I said, there are weaknesses in that Napoli performance last week that we can take heart from. But going away to the San Paolo, it's a tough ask, but I'm going to go over 2-2 draw. In terms of the head-to-head record, Napoli have been dominant in more recent times, winning 5 of the last 7 meetings. Milan's last win over Napoli, you'd have to go back to December 14th, 2014. Goal scorers on that day were Menez and Bonaventura in a 2-0 win at San Siro. And to be quite honest with you, looking further beyond that, going back further, we just don't do particularly well against them. So this is going to be a difficult test, and it's one that hopefully we can get a decent result from, as I said. Team news: Cialanoli suspended, Andrea Conti, Christian Zapata and even Strinic all unavailable, and there is talk that Musacchio will get the nod ahead of Caldara next to Romagnoli, so we may well have to wait to see that partnership blossom, but I've got no issues with Musacchio starting. He has been solid in pre-season, so he's bided his time. If he's the choice for Gattuso, then that's fine by me. For Napoli, no suspensions, but Meret, Goulam and Younes are all out. A feature that I'll be doing for each preview is a player to watch, and it has to be Higuain this week, doesn't it? I mean, against Napoli, competitive debut for Milan, saw what he can do against Madrid in that pre-season friendly. Let's hope he can make a quick start, get off the mark, kind of relieve that little bit of pressure maybe on his shoulders to be the main man at Milan. If he can get a goal in his first appearance, that would be brilliant for him, so let's hope that happens. On to your Twitter questions and comments next. At the Milanisti 11, I think we had a fantastic transfer window. We filled in our squad holes, solid 8 out of 10, especially considering the morbidly low expectations I had at the start of the Mercato. As for Napoli, they look defensively frail against Lazio. I think Higuain can do some damage. It's never easy, especially on their turf, but I'm feeling optimistic. Joe's gone with a prediction of 2-1 Milan, Gonzalo brace. As for my favourite Milan moment, which I mentioned earlier, his one was, in recent years, got to go for Locatelli's screamer versus Juve. I'm honestly surprised I didn't get arrested while celebrating that one. Hey, you and me both. I think that was a memorable moment for a lot of fans. Very difficult to disagree with anything you've said there. As I mentioned, I think we have had a solid transfer window, so I've gone a little bit low of a 7.5 compared to your 8, but completely agree with you, especially with the situation that we found ourselves in at the start of the summer. Yong Hong Lee still loitering around with his issues. Financial fair play, UEFA clamping down and trying to make a point with us, getting banned from the Europa League, all sorts of things. There's so many question marks, but to go from that to where we are now with the players that we've brought in and sold, with Leonardo and Maldini in charge, I think, like I mentioned on Twitter, Leonardo came back on July 25th. He had 3 weeks to work his magic in the transfer market. I take my hat off to him. I think he's done a stellar job for the time frame that he had, the deals that were probably available to him. I think he's done a brilliant job so far. And if anything, I'm excited to see what he can do next year when the shackles may be off a little bit from UEFA. He's got more flexibility. I think, it's a masterstroke as far as I'm concerned, bringing him back to the club and Maldini working in tandem with him as well. I think it's a brilliant move. So, yeah, let's see how that one plays out next year. It's an optimistic one, I do think that, but 2-1 for Milan this weekend against Napoli. Let's hope so. I think you're spot on. I think Higuain's obviously going to be the main threat for us, and he'll have a point to prove again. So, yeah, 2-2, 2-1, not a lot in it, but let's hope that you're right. Your Milan moment, absolutely brilliant moment for Locatelli, especially being a homegrown Milan player, coming through the ranks. He was kind of making his breakthrough. He had that Sassuolo goal as well. But that goal against Juve was just a special strike. And the reaction, the celebration, tears after the game, just unbelievable. Just a really, really memorable moment. So, brilliant shout with that one. At Samir Mohamed, 72, he's given Milan an 8 out of 10 as well for the transfer window. Threw a few dead weights and got good backups. Samir adds, we need a central midfielder for Jack or Biglia, depending on where Mauri plays. I've completely forgot about Jose Mauri. That's another point. Everyone expected him to be gone by now, but decent pre-season. We'll see what he can do when he gets an opportunity this season. Let's just see if he gets minutes from Gattuso. But yeah, that's a good shout. But yeah, 8 out of 10. Can't really argue. I think you're both spot on with that. Maybe I'm a little bit harsh. I don't know, 7.5. Could probably sneak up to an 8. But yeah, it's a good shout. Samir, in terms of the game this weekend, Napoli looks shaky in defence from what I've seen in the first half. I say 2-1 for us. And Smear's also gone for the Locatelli screamer against Juve and winning the match. So Smear and the Milanisti 11, definitely speaking from the same page there. Again, I'll echo those points. I think Napoli defensively did look shaky against Lazio, not only in the first half, but generally across the game. So I think there's room there for us to exploit it. As long as, we know Çalhanoğlu, of course, who's suspended. So it's going to be on Suso, Castillejo maybe making his debut, Higuain, of course, and then just depending Kessie, Bakayoko, whoever gets the nod in midfield. So there's options and decisions to be made, but I'm optimistic. Let's see what we can do. At Soto_Milanista, loved your podcast from day one. Keep up the good work. Thanking you very much for that. Very kind words. My favourite Milan moment is the 2007 final in Athens. Just thinking of that night still gives me goosebumps. Cannot think of a better moment than watching Milan live in my hometown lifting the Champions League trophy. Don't think that's going to top anything. A great shout. And then he's also added transfer window 7 out of 10. Again, yeah, I think we're all roughly around the same sort of area with it. But yeah, that's a decent shout as well. 7.5 from me. And yeah, another win for Milan. Prediction 1-0 to Milan this weekend. So guys, I hope you're right. I would love to kick off this season with 3 points, especially away at Napoli. Not only a massive morale boost and confidence booster for us, but just a kind of statement to put down. First game of the season, like, yep, we're here, we're ready, let's get this top 4. So let's hope you're right. Hark the sound, Troy, 2-1 to Napoli for him. I think we'll look good losing. Again, I completely see where you're coming from. It's going to be a tough game. It's a tough ask away at Napoli. I think we can look good. I think we will put up a decent fight. It's just about whether or not we've got the quality in the final third to take our chances, and then also to kind of keep that solid foundation, whether it's Milik or Mertens, Callahan and Insigne on the wings. We've got to shut them down and find a way to nullify their attacks, and I think we've got a great shout of taking something from the game. So yeah, let's see how we get on, but hopefully we'll be celebrating 3 points in the player ratings on Saturday night. Moz at Mr. GL, he's given us an 8 out of 10 for our market as well. Seems to be the popular choice, fair play. Getting a dynamic playmaker to take the reins from Jack would be a great addition next summer. Completely agree with you there. We all love Jack. He's a great player. He does a great job for the team. But if we're looking to get to that next level, get back into the Champions League, I think we definitely need more in that department. So yeah, that's a great call for that one. Napoli's defence looks a bit shaky. I think we can sneak a 2-1 win. Again, another popular choice. A lot of 2-1s for us this weekend. Let's hope that we're right and we can get that win. It's going to be difficult, as I mentioned, but yeah, it's within our grasp. I think we can do it. And then Moz's favourite moments: Kaká against Man United, who can forget? Then also the Scudetto, great send-off for the last of the Milan legends. Yeah, I mean, that one still lives in the memory. I think we won it at the Stadio Olimpico. The scenes there celebrating and back at the stadium afterwards, and then obviously the emotional farewell with all their legends that came after that. It was definitely a great moment. And Kaká, that performance against United at Old Trafford, unbelievable. Just two great shouts there, Moz. And again, take my hat off to you. That's the inspiration for this idea was from your idea about the Milan story. So cheers for that again. Summer transfer window is closed. All eyes will be on the San Paolo this weekend. I will be back on Saturday night with my match thoughts and player ratings. As I said, let's hope it is celebrating 3 points as well. Again, thank you all for tuning in. The numbers were good last week on the podcast for the season preview. I appreciate all your views, your comments, your likes. Please keep them coming in and spread the word about the Milan Talk podcast. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Milan Talk 1 for more news, opinions and videos for the goals and stuff at the weekend. But until next time, thanks for tuning in and Forza Milan.